The door handle moved half an inch and stopped. Ayana pulled again, harder this time, until the tendons in her wrist burned. The lock did not click. The driver did not turn around. "This is the wrong way." Her voice came out steady enough to fool a stranger. It did not fool her body. Her heart was hammering at 162 beats a minute, and every beat seemed to strike the locked door beside her. The driver's eyes lifted to the rearview mirror, not to her face, to her hands. Ayana stopped pulling the handle. The privacy partition began to rise. It slid upward between them with a soft electric hum, shutting away the driver, the mirror, and the last human face in the car. That quiet black wall frightened her more than a weapon would have. A weapon meant a decision had been made. The partition meant someone wanted time. Outside the rain-streaked window, the restaurant district was gone. So were the bright streets she knew. The black town car was carrying her across the river, away from Kang Ji-ho, away from the truth he had promised to tell her, and toward a part of the city where the streetlights stood farther apart. She looked down before panic could empty her head. Phone. One bar of signal, gold clutch on her lap, seatbelt across her body, rain on the glass. 3 bridge lamps passing at equal intervals, a river horn somewhere to the left. She forced herself to notice everything, because noticing had once been the habit that helped her survive rooms where people pretended not to see her. Tonight, it might keep her alive. Ayana turned the phone against her thigh, dimmed the screen, and opened Amina's contact by memory. Her thumb hovered over the keyboard. A long message would take too much time. A call would make noise. She typed 3 words. Wrong car. River. The message stayed grey. The car reached the center of the bridge. The city signal dropped. Ayana watched the tiny symbol beside the message and felt the whole world shrink to a spinning circle no larger than a grain of rice. Then it changed. Delivered. The brake lights of the cars ahead flared red. Her driver slammed his foot down. Ayana's body snapped forward against the seatbelt. Her phone flew from her thigh, struck the floor and skidded beneath the front passenger seat. The partition dropped 6 inches. A man's hand shot through the gap. Phone. It was the first word he had spoken. Ayana pressed herself back into the leather, breathing through the pain across her chest. You can stop the car and look for it, or you can crawl under the seat while driving in this rain. I would personally enjoy either choice. The driver's hand remained open. Her fear was still there. It had not vanished. It had simply found something sharper to stand behind. Across the city, Tanya Bello entered Seoul Garden as though she had been invited by the building itself. Her burgundy satin dress caught the amber light. Her phone was already recording inside her gold clutch, the camera peeking through the opening. She crossed the dining room beneath the gaze of staff who knew exactly who belonged at the koi table and who did not. Kang Ji-ho sat alone at that table, with one hand resting over a black card. The card contained 11 years of truth. It began with his brother's name. The restaurant door had opened at 8, and for one impossible second, Ji-ho had expected emerald green. Instead, Tanya climbed the raised step, wearing Ayana's confidence like something she had borrowed without asking. Ji-ho did not rise. Where is she? Tanya's smile held, but only around the mouth. Ayana asked me to meet her here. Ji-ho's eyes moved to the phone hidden inside her clutch. And with Ayana locked inside the wrong car, while a liar walked toward the table meant for her, subscribe to Afro-Korean Love Tales Hub. It tells us these stories are landing with you, and it is what allows us to keep bringing them. Because the next thing Ji-ho discovers is worse than the kidnapping. Upstairs, Min-sok's voice came through his earpiece, stripped of all its usual control. The car we sent is still outside her building. Ji-ho's fingers closed over the black card. The chair behind him struck the floor when he stood. Tanya stepped back. And before Ji-ho could ask the question again, her hidden phone vibrated inside the clutch. The screen lit through the narrow opening. Keep him at the table for 10 minutes. Ji-ho saw every word. So did Min-seok when he took the phone from her hand. Tanya's face emptied. I don't know what that means. Ji-ho came around the table slowly. The restaurant staff had seen him angry. Men at the docks had seen him order consequences without changing his tone. No one in that room had ever seen fear reach him and turn, instantly, into violence held on a chain. Then you have 10 seconds to become useful. At Ayana's apartment building, Amina Coffee found a black sedan waiting at the curb. A driver stood beside it, phone pressed to his ear, staring at the empty entrance. Amina stopped so suddenly her heels slipped on the wet pavement. "Who are you waiting for?" The man lowered the phone. "Miss Diallo." The blood left Amina's face. She called Ayana. Once. Twice. On the third attempt, the line connected. No voice answered. Amina heard rain, tires, a faint mechanical rattle beneath the road. Then Ayana's breath, distant and controlled, as though the phone had fallen somewhere she could not reach. A man spoke inside the car. "Miss Diallo, sit back." Amina turned on the speaker and called Jiho's restaurant with her other hand. Inside the town car, the driver lowered the partition far enough to look at Ayana. A thin white scar cut across the back of his right hand. A black earpiece curled behind his ear. He reached down between the seats, searching for the phone without taking his eyes off the road. Ayana looked past him through the windshield. Steel beams, repeating lamps, black water on both sides. She raised her voice. "If you are taking me somewhere, at least have the courage to tell me where." The car speakers clicked alive. A different man answered. His voice was warm, educated, and almost kind. "That courage is exactly why Kang Ji-ho noticed you." Ayana's stomach dropped. She knew that voice without ever having heard it. Power had a way of introducing itself before a name arrived. "Who are you?" A quiet laugh filled the cabin. "The man who spent 6 years looking for a door into a house with no doors." The driver found the phone beneath the seat and held it up. The call was still connected. He reached to end it. Ayana drove the heel of her sandal down on his wrist. The phone fell again. The car swerved across the lane. A horn exploded beside them. The driver cursed and dragged the wheel straight, while Ayana threw herself toward the opposite door, searching for any release, any weakness, any chance to force the car to stop. The voice on the speakers remained calm. "Careful. The last person who took this route for Ji-ho did not reach the other side." Ayana froze. At Seoul Garden, Amina's call played through Min-seok's phone. He heard the river horn. He heard the bridge joints under the tires. Then he heard the voice mention the last person who had taken that route for Ji-ho. Min-seok gripped the edge of the surveillance desk. Ji-ho looked at him. "What route?" Min-seok did not answer quickly enough. Ji-ho crossed the room and caught the front of his jacket. "What route?" Min-seok's eyes went to the black card still clutched in Ji-ho's hand, the confession Ayana had never reached. When he finally spoke, his voice sounded older than it had an hour earlier. "Busan." The word hit Ji-ho like a bullet that had taken 11 years to arrive. Min-seok looked toward the live map, where Ayana's broken signal was moving toward the abandoned ferry district. "He is not only taking her," Min-seok said. "Victor is rebuilding the night your brother died." Ji-ho released Min-seok's jacket, but the calm did not return to his face. 11 years earlier, Busan had taken his brother. Tonight, the same trap had placed Ayana in the dead man's seat. Busan was back. Ji-ho turned toward Tanya. She was still standing beside the koi table, clutch empty now, eyes fixed on the phone in Min-seok's hand. "You gave them her address." Tanya shook her head too fast. "I gave an event coordinator some details, that's all. They said they were arranging something private for you." Ji-ho stepped closer. "Her address." Tanya swallowed. "Her building, not the apartment number. Her work schedule. I thought it was for security. Her train route. They asked what time she usually arrived. And the dress she would wear tonight." Tanya's face collapsed. Min-seok scrolled through the messages. Every excuse died on the screen before Tanya could speak it. Photographs, screenshots, Ayana's office, her apartment entrance, the route from the train. A voice note where Tanya laughed while explaining that Ayana always answered when guilt was used correctly. Ji-ho did not raise his voice. "You did not share gossip." His eyes lifted to hers. "You sold a person." Tanya's lips parted. Nothing came out. Across the river, the false town car left the bridge and turned into a district of shuttered warehouses, rusted cranes, and old ferry signs stripped of their lettering. Ayana kept one hand pressed against the door and the other wrapped around her clutch. The driver had recovered her phone. He placed it on the front console where she could see it but could not reach it. A threat displayed like a trophy. Victor's voice remained in the speakers. "You are calmer than most people would be." "I am not calm." "No, But you are useful under pressure. That is rarer. Ayana watched the road bend toward a black stretch of water. What do you want? An honest conversation. You kidnapped the wrong woman for honesty. Victor laughed again, softer this time. That is exactly what Jiho would say. The car rolled through a chain-link gate and entered an abandoned ferry terminal. Emergency lights glowed along the concrete ceiling. Old passenger barriers divided the hall into narrow lanes. Beyond them, rain struck the loading platform and vanished into the river. The driver opened Ayana's door. She stayed seated. He reached for her arm. Ayana looked at his hand, then at his face. Touch me, and I will make sure the first thing your employer sees is you bleeding. The man hesitated. That hesitation told her something. Victor wanted her intact. Ayana stepped out on her own. Inside the terminal, portable lamps had been arranged around a single chair. A camera faced it. A live monitor stood behind the camera, already displaying the room from a wider angle. Victor Brand waited beside a metal table. He looked less like a criminal than a man preparing to host a donor dinner. White shirt, dark suit, silver hair, calm hands. That was the first thing Ayana hated about him. Men like Victor made violence look administrative. He gestured toward the chair. Ayana remained standing. Sit. No. His smile thinned. The driver moved behind her. Victor lifted one finger and the man stopped. You see, Victor said. No one has to be unpleasant. You locked me in a car. I removed distractions. You dragged me across a river. I brought you to the truth. He placed a folder on the metal table and opened it. Inside were photographs from a dock at night. A black car, a burned warehouse entrance, a younger Jiho standing in rain beside Min Seok, blood on his shirt, looking at something outside the frame. The next page held a vehicle order. A handwritten instruction directed Jihoon to take Jiho's car and leave through the eastern loading road. At the bottom was Jiho's signature. Ayana stared at it. For several seconds, the room gave Victor exactly what he wanted. Her face lost colour. Her eyes moved over the page again. The words seemed to pull the air from her lungs. He sent his brother into the car, Victor said. Then he took the territory the death created. Ayana's fingers rested against the edge of the table. The handwriting was precise, almost perfect, but Jiho closed the top of his capital letters tightly. The forger left them open. Jiho's lines leaned so slightly left that most people would never notice. These lines stood straight. And Jiho always left too much space after a period. The document did not. Ayana lifted her eyes slowly. She did not let Victor see recognition. Instead, she let hurt settle over her face. He told me his brother died in Busan. He told you only the piece that made him tragic. Victor stepped closer. He did not tell you he made the choice. At Seoul Garden, Binta called Tanya for the 6th time. Min Seok answered. Binta began speaking before she realized the voice was not Tanya's. Did he show up? Is the harbour man there? Tanya said the invitation had a private location pin near the old ferry district. Min Seok looked at Jiho. Which terminal? Binta stopped breathing. Jiho took the phone. This is Kang Jiho. The sound Binta made was almost a sob. 5 minutes later, she had forwarded everything. The invitation pin, the Harbour Foundation contact, the messages where Tanya bragged that she would keep Jiho busy while Ayana received a surprise introduction. Tanya listened as her own plan rebuilt itself around her. She started crying. I didn't know. Jiho looked at her without sympathy. You knew enough to hide it from Ayana. The restaurant doors opened again. Amina entered, soaked from the rain, Ayana's real driver behind her. She carried 2 phones and a paper florist receipt inside a clear plastic sleeve. I found the flower order, she said. The bouquet sent to Ayana's office came from a shell company. The same company paid the harbour contact. Tanya turned toward her. Amina, tell them I didn't know. Amina's face tightened. For 7 years, she had protected herself by standing near cruelty and calling her silence neutrality. Not tonight. You knew they were watching her, Amina said. You just didn't care why. Tanya recoiled as if struck. If you are still standing with Ayana, drop the emoji that describes what you feel about Tanya right now. Tell me where you are watching from and what time it is there, then stay close, because the next discovery changes who Jiho believes he can trust. Min Seok placed the ferry pin beside the old river maps. There is one terminal with an interior route wide enough for the car. Jiho reached for his coat. Min Seok did not move. Before we go, you need to know what he is going to show her. Jiho turned. Min Seok's jaw tightened around 11 years of cowardice. The order is false. Jiho went still. But it was built around something real. The surveillance room seemed to contract. Min Seok lowered his eyes. Your brother discovered the altered dispatch before you did. The assassins were waiting for your car. Ji-hoon took your place without telling you. Jiho stared at him. No, he thought he could pull them away long enough for me to move you through the service exit. No. I realized after the car had already left. Jiho crossed the distance between them, but this time he did not grab Min Seok. His hands simply closed at his sides. You told me he was ordered into that car. I told you the version that kept you alive. Jiho's face changed. Not rage, betrayal. Min Seok reached inside his jacket and removed an old black phone sealed in a protective case. There is a message. Jiho looked at the phone as if it was something alive. You had his voice. Min Seok could not answer. You had it for 11 years. I believed the guilt made you cautious. You let me believe I killed him. I believed grief would make you follow him. Jiho stepped closer until only the phone remained between them. What does he say? Min Seok pressed play. Static filled the room. Then a young man laughed once, breathless and terrified, before speaking his brother's name. Jiho, do not come after me. The recording cracked beneath the sound of an engine. I chose this. Min Seok did not force me. You would have done the same thing, so do not insult me by pretending you do not understand. Jiho's eyes closed. Ji-hoon drew one uneven breath. Loving someone is not the mistake. Letting fear decide what happens after love is the mistake. Live long enough to learn the difference. A metallic impact thundered through the message. Then the line went dead. Jiho opened his eyes. Get the car. Jiho rode toward the ferry terminal with Ji-hoon's final words still trapped inside the car. Live long enough to learn the difference. For 11 years, he had mistaken survival for obedience to grief. He had believed every locked door, every empty table, every unanswered feeling was proof that he had learned from Busan. Now Ayana was inside the same machinery, and the man beside him had allowed the wrong lesson to harden for more than a decade. Min Seok sat across from him in the rear cabin. He had offered no defense. Jiho looked through the rain-dark window. If she is hurt, we finish this first. Min Seok lowered his head. And after? After, you tell me every truth you decided I could not survive. At the ferry terminal, Victor turned the camera toward Ayana. A small red light came alive above the lens. On the monitor, Ayana saw herself. She looked calmer than she felt. That helped. Victor placed the forged Busan order in her hands. You will explain that Kang Ji-ho watched you without permission, manipulated your trust, and brought danger into your life. All of that is true. Victor's smile returned. Ayana kept her eyes on the document. That answer had pleased him too quickly. He believed truth and usefulness were the same thing. They will believe you, he said. You are sympathetic, visible now. People have already decided what your story means. Ayana looked up. People have been deciding that for me my whole life. Victor mistook the anger in her voice for anger at Ji-ho. He moved closer. Then take control of the story. Ayana glanced toward the portable lamps, the power cables, the loading doors, the two guards near the ticket barriers, and the driver behind the camera. She noticed one more thing. The monitor was not only recording, it was transmitting. A delay counter blinked in the corner. Someone else was watching. That was good. Victor gestured toward the chair again. This time, Ayana sat because the chair gave her a clearer view of the cables running beneath the lighting stand, not because he had ordered her to obey. The camera light brightened. Ayana looked into the lens. My name is Ayana Diallo. Across the river, Min Seok's technician intercepted the stream through the private link on Tanya's invitation. Ayana's face appeared on the dashboard monitor inside Jiho's car. Jiho leaned forward. Victor remained just outside the frame. Ayana continued. Kang Ji-ho watched me before I knew his name. He learned where I sat, what I ordered, and when I came back to his restaurant. Ji-ho did not look away. Min Seok watched him instead. The words were true. That made them sharper than any lie Victor could have written. He investigated me without asking. He made decisions about my protection before I knew there was danger. He allowed me to trust him before he told me what standing beside him could cost. Jiho's hand closed slowly around Jihoon's old phone. Victor stepped into the edge of the shot, satisfied. Ayana lifted the forged order. And he owes me an answer for every one of those choices. Victor nodded. Then Ayana turned the page toward herself and smiled. But this is not his handwriting. Victor's expression changed, only slightly. Ayana saw it. The signature is close. The spacing is not. He leans left when he writes. Whoever made this held the pen too straight. Victor moved toward the camera. Ayana kept speaking. He closes the top of his capital letters. This person leaves them open. And Jiho puts too much space after every period because control apparently does not extend to punctuation. Inside the car, something broke across Jiho's face. It was not relief. It was recognition. She had known his handwriting well enough to find him inside a forgery. Victor reached for the camera switch. The red light remained on. Minseok's technician had already locked the feed. Ayana lifted the document higher. This order includes a departure time never released outside the operation. So either you found a witness who survived the attack, or you know because your people helped plan it. Victor looked toward the driver. The driver moved. Ayana leaned back in the chair and raised her voice. If he touches me, everyone watching will know you lost control of your own recording. Victor stopped the man with one hand. The room tightened around him. Ayana had found the first crack. She pushed her fingers into it. You spent 6 years studying Jiho. How long did you study me? Victor said nothing. 1 month? His jaw hardened. That is the problem. You thought learning where I live was the same as knowing who I am. The car carrying Jiho turned through the industrial district. The ferry terminal appeared beyond the rain. Minseok's men approached through a baggage road behind the building. Jiho watched Ayana on the monitor. She was buying time. She was also extracting truth. He understood both. Victor came closer until he stood directly beside her chair. You think recognizing handwriting changes what he is? No, Ayana met his eyes. It changes what you are. For the first time, anger reached Victor's voice. You are alive because I allowed it. No, I am alive because dead women do not make useful videos. The driver looked away. That glance told Ayana she had struck the truth. Victor placed both hands on the table. Kang Jiho will arrive. He will surrender the eastern shipping corridor. Then you will leave. You expect me to believe that? I expect him to. Ayana looked toward the camera. Then make sure he hears this clearly. Outside, Jiho stepped from the car. He wore no coat despite the rain. Water ran from his hair to the collar of his black shirt. Minseok caught his arm before he reached the main entrance. He wants you alone. He wants me predictable. Jiho looked toward the dark terminal. He already failed. They separated. Minseok moved toward the baggage corridor. Jiho walked through the front doors carrying a leather folder. The terminal speakers crackled. Victor's voice met him inside the empty passenger hall. Leave the weapon. Jiho placed it on the floor. Kick it away. He did. Walk forward. Jiho passed through the rusted ticket gates. At the far end of the hall, Ayana sat under the portable lights. Victor stood behind her. One guard held position near the loading platform. Another watched Jiho from beside the old ticket booth. Ayana's eyes found him. For 1 second, everything else disappeared. Then she saw the folder in his hand. Victor stepped beside her. The eastern corridor. Jiho set the folder on the table and opened it. The transfer papers waited inside. Ayana shook her head once, the movement almost invisible. Jiho saw it. He signed anyway. Victor watched the pen move across the page. Jiho showed no hesitation, offered no negotiation, and made no attempt to reduce the price. The pen stopped. Jiho turned the document around. Release her. Victor checked the signature. You built half your power through this route. Then I will build it again. And if I ask for the Western docks too? Jiho looked at Ayana. An empire is replaceable. The terminal seemed to stop breathing. She is not. Ayana's eyes burned, not because he had chosen her, but because he had chosen without trying to make her owe him for it. Victor closed the folder. Then he smiled. No. The guard behind Ayana stepped closer. Jiho's gaze hardened. You have what you asked for. I have what I asked for from you. Victor placed one hand on the back of Ayana's chair. I have not yet heard what she chooses. He turned the camera toward Jiho and pulled Ayana to her feet. The live feed continued. The river hammered against the loading platform below. Victor placed the forged Pusan order in Ayana's hand and told her to look at the man who had just surrendered an empire. Tell him, Victor said, whether you still believe his handwriting matters. Ayana looked at Jiho across the light. She saw rain on his face, grief in his eyes, and the empty place where certainty had lived. Victor expected her to accuse him. Jiho expected nothing. That difference mattered. She folded the false order slowly, keeping Victor's attention on her hands, while her heel searched behind her for the nearest cable. Then she answered with the truth Victor had not prepared to hear. Ayana looked directly at Jiho. Yes, she said. Your handwriting matters. Victor's smile vanished. Ayana drove her heel down on the thick power cable behind her. The connector tore loose from the portable lighting rig. One lamp died, then another. The metal stand tipped sideways and crashed across the floor, dragging the remaining cables with it. Sparks burst beneath the camera table. The terminal dropped into red emergency light as the fire alarm screamed through the building. Ayana threw herself away from Victor. Jiho moved at the same instant. The first guard reached for her and caught only the sleeve of her dress. Ayana twisted free, drove her clutch into his face, and ran toward the old ticket barriers. The second guard raised his weapon. A shot cracked through the terminal. Minseok came through the baggage corridor and struck the man from the side before he could fire again. Jiho crossed the distance to Ayana, while Victor retreated toward the loading platform. Smoke began pouring from the ruined light cable. Ayana reached Jiho, his hands closed around her shoulders, checking her face, her arms, the side of her head. Are you hurt? I am furious. Relief hit him so hard, his eyes closed for half a second. That will do. Victor reached the edge of the platform and pulled a small pistol from beneath his jacket. Ayana saw it first. Jiho! Jiho turned, caught Victor's wrist, and drove it into the metal railing. The weapon fell through the gap and struck the water below. Victor swung with his free hand. Jiho took the blow and answered with one that sent Victor across the wet concrete. He followed him down, one knee against Victor's chest, his hand closing around the man's throat. The river roared beneath them. 11 years of grief entered Jiho's face. Victor saw it and smiled. There he is. Jiho tightened his grip. You murdered my brother. I gave him a choice. He chose badly. Jiho's hand closed harder. Victor's face darkened. Ayana stepped onto the platform. Jiho. He did not look at her. Victor forced out a laugh. Let him do it. This is what he is. Ayana moved closer. No. Jiho's eyes lifted. She did not plead for Victor's life. She looked only at Jiho. Do not let him decide who walks out of here. The words reached the place Jihoon's final message had already opened. Jiho released Victor. Minseok pulled the man upright and forced his hands behind his back. Victor coughed against the railing. You think this changes anything? The corridor is mine. Minseok held up his phone. The transfer, your confession, the kidnapping feed, and every account connected to this terminal were copied before you arrived. Victor's expression finally broke. Minseok continued. The Federal Task Force received everything 9 minutes ago. You sent it to them. I sent it to people you never paid. Outside, sirens began moving toward the terminal. Victor stared at Ayana. She stood beside Jiho, smoke curling behind her, her torn sleeve hanging from one shoulder. He had chosen her because he believed she was a door. He had never imagined she would become the witness who locked every exit. By morning, Victor's partners had frozen his accounts. By afternoon, 3 men who once called him untouchable had denied knowing him. The shipping transfer became evidence of coercion, not ownership. His empire began collapsing through the same cameras he had arranged to destroy Jiho. Ayana did not watch any of it. She went home. Jiho brought her there himself. He did not enter until she asked. The black confession card sat between them on her coffee table. For several minutes, neither touched it. Then Jiho began speaking. He told her about the ports, the debts, the alliances built through fear, and the men removed from his path. He did not call his empire misunderstood. He did not disguise power as protection. He told her about the cameras. I watched you before you knew me. I know. I pulled your reservation records. I know that too. I arranged security around you without asking. Ayana folded her hands in her lap. You saved my life tonight. Jiho said nothing. That does not erase what you did before tonight. I know. Being protected without consent can become another way of being erased. The words landed cleanly. Tanya decided I did not belong in the picture. You do not get to decide danger means I no longer belong in my own life. Jiho lowered his eyes. You are right. No defense, no explanation, no promise built to make her comfort him. Ayana looked at the man who had surrendered an empire before knowing whether she still loved him. I need time. You have it. He placed the black card on the table and left. 3 days later, Tanya came to Ayana's apartment. Her apology began with tears and ended with excuses. She had not known Victor would take her. She thought the Harbour Foundation wanted an introduction. She believed the information would help all of them. Ayana listened until Tanya ran out of ways to make betrayal sound accidental. The kidnapping did not begin with the car, Tanya stopped. It began every time you decided my money, my privacy, my loyalty, and my face belonged to you. We were friends for 7 years. That is why you knew exactly how to hurt me. Ayana told her to delete every photograph, video, message, and post containing her image. Tanya's mouth trembled. So that is it? Ayana opened the door. That is exactly it. Binta arrived the next day blaming Tanya. Ayana did not let her finish. Laughing half a second late is still laughing. Binta had no answer. Amina came without asking to be forgiven. She brought the complete message archive and agreed to testify. I chose comfort over courage, she said. For 7 years. Ayana studied her. Coffee. Amina blinked. 1 cup, Ayana said. That is not forgiveness. I know. It was still the first honest invitation between them. Jiho met Min-seok in the surveillance room that evening. The monitors were dark, except for the one overlooking the koi table. Min-seok placed his weapon on the console. My position is yours. Jiho looked at Ji-hoon's old phone. You protected my heartbeat and helped bury everything else. Min-seok accepted the words without moving. I thought the softer brother would not survive. The harder one did not survive either. Jiho switched off the final monitor. The koi table disappeared from the screen. You stay, he said, but you never decide which truths I am allowed to carry again. Min-seok bowed his head. Jiho walked downstairs. Several days later, Ayana returned to Seoul Garden wearing the emerald dress. No one guided her to the raised floor. She knew the way. The black confession card waited at her place. She read every line. Busan, Ji-hoon, the surveillance, the empire. Every choice Jiho regretted, and every consequence he accepted. On the blank back, Ayana wrote 3 conditions. No watching from above. No decisions about her life without her. No truth withheld because someone believes fear is kinder. Beneath them, she added one final line. If you can live with this, sit down. Jiho waited at the edge of the raised floor. He read the card. Then he sat beside her. Not opposite her, beside her. Later, the head chef asked for one photograph. Amina stood nearby. Min-seok stood at the edge of the group. The young busboy Ayana had once helped held the phone. When he raised it, Ayana's foot moved backward. 7 years of training tried to remove her. She stopped. Then she stepped forward and took the center position. Jiho waited until she reached for his hand before moving closer. The flash went off. For the first time in her life, Ayana did not ask to see the photograph. She already knew she was in it.